Hey everybody, it's Talks from Crits Happen. Thanks for watching and welcome back. Today we're going to get into a new series called Critical Kicks, where I'm going to take a look at games that I've recently backed and received on Kickstarter and get a chance to talk with you about them. Now before I do that, I want to take a few seconds and chat about kind of what's been going on recently. And by that I mean our lack of videos, or my lack of videos. I don't know why I do that. You know, I always interchange I and we and us and me. I don't know why I do that. If that bothers anybody, I'm really sorry. It bothers me and I just can't seem to get over it mentally. I did not get a lot of videos out in January, and I want to apologize for that. And I also want to thank everybody for sticking with us. Crits Happen is not my business. It is not how I make a living. Yes, there are ads on the YouTube channel, and no, it does not bring in a lot of money. It barely covers enough to pay for website fees and things like that. It's just not there. And even now, we just crossed 10,000 subscribers and 1 million views, which is amazing and quite honestly humbling and a little mind-blowing to think about. Because what I do with Crits Happen is a passion. I love board games. I love playing board games. I love the social engagement of board games, the interaction, the fact that we can sit down with a multitude of games and themes that mean something or take people places, and we can all go on an adventure together. And I love that. And for me, it was a way with Crits Happen to get that discussion started and engage with more people than just my gaming groups. I'm blessed with a huge amount of friends that are gamers here locally, which is awesome. But it's great to engage with every one of you. Now, like I just said, we just crossed 10,000 subscribers. I remember starting this and having 5 and 10. And what amazes me is that now, even with 10,000 subscribers, I'm able to rattle off hundreds, if not thousands of people's names that I've interacted with, that I know, that I can remember and say, oh yeah, this guy said this girl said this person said that. I love that. I absolutely love that. So I apologize for not getting as many videos out, but unfortunately, my day job, which many of you may not or know, I don't know how many people know or don't know, I'm vice president at Arcane Wonders, where we make Mage Wars and Dice Tower Essentials games, and it's been taking up a lot of time. It's been taking up 15, 16-hour days, and it's been really busy, so it's just unfortunately kept me from my passion. As much as I would like to say that Crits Happen is my number one focus, it is not. My number one focus is my family. My number two focus is Arcane Wonders, and then number 3 is Crits Happen. That's also probably why I killed the idea of doing a Kickstarter. A lot of board game reviewers will do Kickstarters and raise funds for their site, and I think that's great. If the market bears it, go for it. But for me, I know what I can commit to, and I know that this is a passion project and not a business for me. I do plan on bringing out some accessory type things with the Crits Happen logo on it. We're talking about some dice and some playmats and things like that, which I think would be great. I have this wacky notion and idea that if you give me money for something like a Kickstarter, that you should actually get something physical in your hand. And not just the hope that I'll get better. So look for that. I don't know if we're going to do a Kickstarter or not, or I don't know if we'll just put it on our website or not. We'll figure it out. But I've seen the playmats, and they look really cool. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I've seen the dice, and they look pretty cool too. So we got some good stuff coming up. But I guess what I'm trying to get to is, the only videos we did in January were a couple of critical questions of the days, which I love. Those are great. And thank you very much for sticking with us. Hopefully we're going to get more here in February and more moving forward. But as always, the discussion continues, and I'm glad that you have joined us to be part of it. So now that I've rambled, why don't we jump into Critical Kicks? Okay, so what is Critical Kicks? So I used to do critical previews, and they were all about board games coming out on Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and they were new, and we were showing them to you, and that was great. However, quite frankly, we ran into a lot of challenges doing that. So late last year, I decided to not do that anymore around the November timeframe. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, I wish he would feature my game that's on Kickstarter right now, I'm sorry. The only thing that I do right now for current Kickstarters is we offer ad space on our website. That's it. We don't do any previews anymore. And one of the reasons that I wanted to shift is I wanted to get into this aspect of Kickstarter, and that being the post-production. 99% of everything you see that is a Kickstarter preview or Indiegogo preview is not the finished game. And there's a lot of things that people don't realize, I think, when they're looking at a Kickstarter campaign or at a prototype. For example, Fidelitas is a great example. I thought this was going to be in a box the size of Scoville, and it's not. It's in a box this big, which is awesome. But there's things like that. So what I want to do is talk to you about the companies and about the games, because there's two different facets to Kickstarter. And even at Arcane Wonders, we've explored Kickstarter and thought about it and talked about it. There's so many different things that go into Kickstarter. For example, people think that Kickstarter is just a lottery machine. It's just, pull the handle and money comes out. That's not the case. It's a lot of work. A lot of work to get a successful product or project and make it a successful project. Obviously, once you do one and do two and do three, things get better and better, which is great, and that's wonderful. There's some companies that solely do all of their stuff on Kickstarter, and that's great. There's some companies who use Kickstarter as kind of a pre-order platform, I guess. And then there are some that use Kickstarter as the means for getting the dollars to manufacture their game and ultimately get it into distribution. Now, I could talk for days and months and years about bad practices on Kickstarter, but what I want to focus on Critical Kicks is positive things about Kickstarter, because there are a lot of positive things. I run into a lot of people who tell me, I never Kickstarter. I'll never Kickstarter. I don't ever want to do anything with Kickstarter. And if that's the case, you're missing out on a lot, because there's a lot of really cool stuff. So today, let's go through 6 games that I've received recently. I'm not going to delve into how to play these games or massive things about them, but I want to talk to you about why I've been happy with them and why I've been happy with the companies behind them. So let's start off with this one. Let's start off with Tuscany. So Tuscany is a very unique expansion. This is from Stonemayer Games. They have brought us Viticulture, Euphoria. They have a couple more coming out. This Tuscany is actually an expansion to Viticulture. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Viticulture, Viticulture is a worker placement Euro game designed where you are using workers to make grapes, crush them into wine, and then fulfill wine orders to make points. And then whoever has the most points at the end of a certain time will be able to be declared the victor. What Tuscany does is actually quite radical. It's literally in the terms of radical. It takes a legacy-style expansion module set and adds it to the world of Viticulture. So there's not one game inside of here that you can add to Viticulture. There are several games, a dozen games, and they're little tiny things. Some of them are expansions. I think it's a Boriculture is a small expansion that's inside of it. Then they have like Mamas and Papas cards, which are characters that give you things that you can do throughout the game and achieve throughout the game. You have new Summer Winter Visitor cards, new coins. They had awesome metal coins in this. And a upgraded board. And little tiny things that have added just a lot of flavor. And that's probably the word that sticks out the most in my mind when I think about Stonemayer Games. They produce games that are not groundbreaking. They are not earth-shattering. They don't introduce major new components or mechanics or things like that. Well, I take that back. Euphoria introduced new components with gold bricks, but that was for the Kickstarter version only. What they do, this is the way I can describe Stonemayer Games. What they do really well. Just like their games. What they set out to do, they do really well. If you sit down with Viticulture and Tuscany, you're not going to walk away going, wow, that worker placement game blew my mind. but you are going to walk away having fun and in a world and in a thematic that could engage your group in a very, very fun evening. I've been extremely happy with Tuscany, and they have a lot of other things coming down the pike, and they just continue to get better and get better. I think unfairly in the world of Kickstarter, people think that because something is a zombie-side, that everybody can do zombie-side, and that's just not the case. Zombie-side was not perfect, and even though it made lots of money, did not generate like just perfectness. And I think unduly and unfairly, people will look at a successful project, compare that to someone who's brand new on projects, and go, well, why can't you just do it like them? Or why can't you be as successful as them? It's because we're all different. Just like we are as gamers and as we are as humans. We all have different likes and dislikes. We all have different tactics. We all will approach things differently. And I, for one, love that. And I don't hold that against someone. To me, success should not be measured against other people's success. Success should be measured against your own set of goals. And if that, whether any of these companies can do that, that is great. So, end of the day, Tuscany is a phenomenal expansion. You do need to have viticulture to play it. So if you have not had a chance to get viticulture, I know that it is in distribution. You can get it on their website as well, but I would highly recommend to check that one out. It is viticulture and the recent Kickstarter's Tuscany from Stone Mayer Games. Okay, so let's see what we can do next. Let's do two at once because there's two from the same company on the board here. I'm going to move these around a little bit. So Tasty Minstrel Games has provided Harbor, which is just an absolute ridiculous amount of stuff in this little box, which is really cool. And one of my favorite worker placement games of all time, Scoville. I played Scoville with Ed Marriott, the designer, at Board Game Geek Con in 2013. And I remember a friend of mine saying to me, he said, hey, I want you to come meet Ed. He's got this really cool game about making peppers. And I sat there and I was like, peppers? Okay. Doesn't sound fun. Doesn't sound engaging at all, but we'll go check it out. And Ed was super nice. He was super cool. He explained what looked like, just visibly looked like a hard game to comprehend, explained it extremely well, and stayed highly engaged. And this is probably one of the things that I really, really love about Scoville, outside of the game, but about the project itself. Scoville is a game about making peppers, walking through a farm, and combining colors. It's really colorful. It's really fun. It is a worker placement game that has really excited me, and I've had a lot of fun playing it. But Ed, as a designer, was extremely engaged in the project. And the same thing goes for Scott Alms, who did Harbor. Scott is extremely engaged on Twitter. Both of them from Tasty Minstrel. Now, while Michael, depending on who you talk to, some people love Tasty Minstrel games. Some people have been frustrated with some of the things that they have done. And I'm not here to argue or not argue that. Have there been some things that Kickstarter backers could perceive as negative? Sure, they could. If I back a project and somebody else gets it before me and I don't get it, then yeah, that can frustrate people. And I see that and I understand that. But I also understand there's business decisions behind that that have to be made. But be that as it may, I want to talk about the two designers and what they did during the projects. During both Kickstarter projects, they were highly engaged, highly attentive, and super ridiculously fast to respond to Twitter messages. It didn't matter if somebody had a gripe or somebody had a question or somebody wanted to know this or know that or suggest this or suggest that. Apart from just being active on the project itself, on the project page, both designers were super engaged from the social media perspective, and I love that. So Scoville is one that is definitely, I know, in distribution right now. Go out, check this out. This is just a really cool game, really fun little backstory. Even if you don't like planting, even if you don't like farming, and don't tell me you don't, because millions of you play Agricola, this is a really, really fun game. Harbor is also a really fun game, and this actually surprised me. I'll be very honest with everybody on this. I backed this game purely because of its price and because of its art, and the fact that I've gotten Tasty Minstrel games in the past that I've been very happy with. So I took a stab, not reading the rules, not looking at any videos, and saying, you know what? I like Scott as a designer, as a person. I like Michael as a person and a business owner, and I like the games I've gotten from Tasty Minstrel. The art looks good, so I'm going to check it out. I'm amazed. I'm so pleased and happy with what's in this box. Harbor is kind of set in the world of Belfort, which is a really, really meaty worker placement game. If you have friends who are AP, don't play Belfort with them. But Harbor is a very light resource management game. And there's literally 40 or 50 cards in here of different characters that you can play that all interact with things differently. There's buildings that you're going to be able to take and put your character in to take advantage of the buildings, which will then increase or decrease certain resources that you have, which will then allow you to ship those resources and gain points and change those values of things. And it's just a lot of manipulation. It kind of feels a little bit like the medieval version of stock market, but it's really, really well done. I've been very, very happy with that. And again, for the price, for the size, and for the fact that you can play it solo, which is actually a really, really good, nice little expansion in there, is really, really well done. So I've been very, very happy with that. So, barring what some people may feel about Tasty Minstrel and understanding completely that you have the right to think those things, I've been very happy with both Scoville and Harbor. And honestly, at the end of the day, again, I know there are people who don't like some of the business decisions that Michael has made, but I understand completely from a business standpoint why he has made those, and I have a hard time faulting him for that. I think Michael does a very good job of running a company that has been very successful, has gone through ups and downs. I love the man to death. I think he's really funny and a very nice guy, and I would definitely suggest to never hold past harbor bad feelings against someone in the past for future projects, because these projects have been just phenomenal and great. Really, really good. Okay, surprises. Let's talk about surprises. Omen Reign of War, and you'll hear that in the box. This is, I think there's been 3 or 4 editions of Omen. I'd seen Omen for a very long time. This is from Small Box Games. This is the Omega edition. What you're hearing rattling around in there are, next to viticulture, the sexiest coins on the planet. These look like copper pennies that are maybe a little smaller than a quarter, and they have this Centurion's helmet on the logo on the front. These are solid. This is how you do metal coins. Just like viticulture, they did a very good job. This is it. Literally, this is it. This is Omen Reign of War. It's the engagement and how this game breaks down that makes it so good and so popular. There's basically 3 resources. You have a strength, you have an offering, and then you have a gold cost. And you're battling over cities. You are fighting to gain control of those cities, and there's a lot of timing involved in Omen Reign of War. This really, really shocked me and surprised me. Up until playing this game, one of my favorite fast 2-player games to play was Pixel Tactics. This is right up there with Pixel Tactics. I think this does an excellent job of taking a 2-player game that could have blown out into a 4-hour engagement and made it fast, portable, and really, really fun. There's some great decisions in here. Now, Small Box Games is what they say, a small company. And they do really interesting games. Now, some people have said that the designs are very similar to each other, and I can see that. However, Omen stands out, and I really, really have been happy with that. From a project perspective, I'm also been very happy with how Small Box handled their communications. I felt that for me, not knowing them personally, not knowing who they are, how they act, that they did a great job of keeping everyone up to date on what was happening. One of the more frustrating things I see on the Kickstarter side is lots and lots of updates up until the project ends, and then nothing. these guys did a great job, I felt, of keeping a regular cadence of getting in touch with people and letting people know about it. Letting know production, samples, pictures, things like that. Really felt they did a good job with that. So overall, this is one of the smaller companies that delivered, that did a really, really just bang up job overall, both with the game and with the project. So the last two, let's talk about the little one first and then the big one last. We'll talk about Fidelitas or Fidelitas or I have no idea. I can't pronounce half the things on my shelf, let alone half the people's names who follow me, and I apologize because all of my European friends, I love you. I'm terrible with American English. I always tell people I know two languages, English and bad English. If you know that movie, I love you. It's great. Okay. Fidelitas. This one surprised me. Two reasons. Green Couch Games. Never heard of them before this came out. The second reason was that this was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful artwork, which always scares the death out of me. Well, I told you that I backed Harbor because I like the artwork. Again, there was some background there about me knowing Tasty Minstrel and some of their track records. I didn't know who Green Couch Games was at all. And the concept behind the game sounded really, really cool. The artwork looked extremely unique. It kind of looked like Agricola and Disney kind of got together and had this like world, and that was really exciting. Fidelitas is small. It's like 80-something cards, 85 cards, and it's really about area control. There's different parts of the city, you're playing characters, some have to go to a certain part, some can go anywhere, you're manipulating them to put influence into the region, and then you're gaining points based on how you influence and where you influence. It's one of these games that really has struck me as really, really easy to learn and really, really hard to master because there's so many, literally just so many different things that can happen. Now this one does, I don't think I've done it yet, but I'm pretty sure it does. Yes, this one plays solo. I have not played it solo yet. We've been playing 2, 3, and 4 players, and it's been great. But to take a step back, aside from the game being really good and exciting and engaging, I had no idea who Green Couch Games was. I'm sitting here telling myself when I'm backing this project, I don't know them. I don't know if they have a track record. I don't know if they look at business the way I look at business. I don't know if they are professional. I don't know if they're going to follow through on their commitments. And that was a risk. And I'm thrilled to say that I feel like they've done an amazing job. Now, I have not, because I've been so busy, I have not had the chance to do any research more about the company. I want to. But I believe this was their first Kickstarter. If I'm wrong at that, I'm sure I'll get corrected. But even still, for someone not knowing them and being concerned about how they would handle it, I felt they did a bang-up job. Very open and communicative. The only thing that I personally probably had an issue with was their updates were more personal than professional. And that's not a problem. It's just for me, I don't want a lot of the flavor. I want to know, where is it, when's it going, when's it going to be here. So for me, I'm much more of a detail-oriented guy. I want to just, like I said, boom, boom, boom. Give me the details. Don't worry too much about the personal stuff. Now, one thing I could tell, which I thought was really cool, was the guys behind Fidelitas. They were very excited. They were very passionate, and it showed through. And I like that because it tells me a lot about them. It tells me a lot about what I can expect from future projects from Green Couch. So it was really cool. So Fidelitas, I'm not sure if this is in distribution or not. I would think it is because it's really, really well put together. Box is really well done, although I wish it had that little thumb hole there. That's just me. But if not, go check out their website, Green Couch Games. Now, let's talk about the big dog, the giant box sitting in front of me, which is known as LaMarcus. So many of you who have been watching me for a while, this is from Chip Theory Games. Two guys, Josh and Adam Carlson. Two of the nicest small independent publishers I've ever met in gaming. And very funny and very creative guys. LaMarcus, the original game, was in this same size box and was, in my opinion, the Kickstarter game of the year a couple of years ago. I want to say it was 2012 that I gave it that award, or 2013, I can't remember. But what it did was awesome. It was a playmat of an arena with titans and characters, and you were a city, like you were Atlantis. And you had all these characters that had chips stacked up. And the chips represented their health, which I thought was extremely creative and unique in this style of gameplay, because I could look at the board and immediately know who's doing well and who's not. There wasn't a lot of like rechecking stats and stuff like that. I really, really loved that. There was also a tremendous amount of value, I thought, for the game in terms of replayability, both from a solo perspective and from a PvP perspective. This is a great, great two-player game to fight. Now, many of you know, because of what I do for a living with Arcane Wonders, I love Mage Wars. Mage Wars, to me, is deep strategy, deep combat, high tactics, high reward. I really love that. LaMarcus provides the same type of experience in a totally different arena, pardon the pun. You're in Rome, you have different cities that have different abilities, that have different champions, and it's very colorful. I love that. Rise of Rome added more of what you love. And there's more gladiators, there's more cities, there's more options, and they did a great, great job with that. I was really, really worried about this one when it was on Kickstarter, because not many people know Chip Theory games. They only have LaMarcus. But they're a company to definitely watch out for, because they are very creative, they're very nice, and they're very professional. They do a very, very good job of keeping people informed, keeping people up to date on the statistics and the dates and things like that, and also planning correctly. Now, nothing on this table, let alone nothing that gets delivered on Kickstarter, barely ever delivers on time. So we know that. It's a facet of life in board gaming that things get delayed. I, for one, being in my position, sometimes think that the boats that are coming over from overseas are being rowed manually. But be that as it may, LaMarcus Rise of Rome and Chip Theory games, if you like combat games, if you like interactive strategy games, where it's a Ameritrash, whatever you want to call it, it is mano-a-mano, last one standing wins. These are great games. LaMarcus and LaMarcus Rise of Rome are phenomenal. They're big. I mean, let's just face it, they're ginormous, and they are heavy. They are heavy. And the reason for that is there's chips galore in here. There's just poker chips, there are playmats, there's everything. And I love the gameplay of LaMarcus. I love what LaMarcus Rise of Rome added to this game. So, Chip Theory Games is probably, of everybody out here, other than maybe Greenbox Games, the ones that you may not have heard of, but definitely check them out. This, I don't know if this is in distribution on retail shelves or not. I've personally never seen it on a retail shelf, but I know they have it at their website. This is a great, great game to invest in. All of them have been great, great games to invest in. And I think that's probably the overriding message of Critical Kicks. There's a lot out there, and there's a lot of awesome out there on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, on crowdfunding platforms. There's a lot of people who are doing it as a living. There are a lot of people who are attempting to do it as a living. And there's a lot of people just getting into it. And I think that if you approach it with the right attitude and you approach it with the right expectations, you can be pleasantly surprised with not just the value of what you get, but the experience of what you get out of it as well. So that's our first episode of Critical Kicks. I hope you've enjoyed it. Again, to just run through the games real quick: Tuscany from Stone Mayer Games, Scoville and Harbor from Tasty Minstrel Games, Fidelitas from Green Couch Games, Omen Reign of War, the Omega Edition from Smallbox Games, and LaMarcus Rise of Rome from Chip Theory Games. Until we see you next time, leave a comment below. Let us know if you backed these, what you think of them. If you didn't, if you're about to go search for them, or what games you found on Kickstarter or Indiegogo that you are looking forward to the most. Leave a comment below in the YouTube channel. Of course, you can chime in on Facebook and Twitter by searching Crits Happen, or at our homepage at critshappen.com. But I'm going to be in a New York Toy Fair in February. I'm going to be at Gamma at March, and if you're at either of those, come by, say hi, and let's have a chat and talk about some board games. Until I see you next time, thanks so much for watching. Keep rolling those dice, and we hope they're all crits.